has been centered within areas of women's social rights. Just last Saturday, 2 days ago, the 8th of March, the year 2025 International Women's Day was observed. The theme for this year's celebration is accelerated action. How did the concept grow into a global phenomenon that it is today? How has it so far been able to focus on women's fight for equality and liberation? In the studio with me is a lady who will profess answers to these questions. She is a known educationist. She is a school proprietress. She's a mother, and without being wrong, I could describe her as a women's right advocate. I said advocate. Her name is Mrs. Onyekasola Umibod. You are most welcome.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Well, on a personal note, I love to call you as my sister and my wife. Yes, for those who don't know, I have known her since she was a young lady. Her mother, we called her mother Auntie Dupe, Mrs. Babalola, was a big sister to me. And fortunately, is married to my own younger brother. So I call her my sister and my wife. But that's just by the way. You're most welcome to this program.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me.
How do you see the last few days, 2 days? How has it been? The agitation before we move into the program proper.
Well, we thank God for the gift of life. I celebrate all women out there, you know, juggling several caps at the same time and being women in a male-dominated society. So I want to celebrate all of them and wish them happy Women's Day celebrations.
Okay. Even though it's 2 days back.
It's 2 days back. Well, we're still, the celebration
yes,
is still.
A young lady accosted me in the studio a short while ago and I didn't greet her and had to apologize. You are a mother and an educationist. What is International Women's Day as a concept? And how did it start, if you don't mind? Very briefly.
Well, very briefly, I believe it started in the United States of America. Women began to advocate for a change in the way they were perceived in society. And they actually desired to vote, and they desired to have equal rights when it came to payment. And so that snowballed into what we have today. You know, a push for women to be recognized, you know, as equals in certain spheres of society.
From the description you've given is in the more than 100 years or so, the agitation for equality has been on.
Yes.
In the last 50 years since Beijing, when the United Nations authorized the yearly observance of the day, what would you say the day has fared, or how has the day fared in terms of relevance?
Well, it's slow progress, and I guess that's the reason why we have the theme accelerated action. The progress has been slow, and for a number of reasons. You know, when you challenge traditional power structures and you demand equality and justice, you don't expect such a fight to be easy, and you don't expect such a fight to be quick. It will take a long time and some time, you know, before giant strides can actually be attained.
Yeah. Do I take it to mean, or does that show an admission of failure?
No. I would give my personal example.
Yeah.
I gave this example last week. In 2003, when my husband was detained for political reasons, I couldn't stand shorty for him, you know, but today I can. Today, after the administration of the Criminal Justice Act, I can now stand shorty for anyone, regardless of the fact of whether I'm a female or a male. So progress has been made. But what we're saying is not enough. We want more. We are Oliver Twists.
Who should champion?
Both males and females. You know, I would say that for the females, those of us that have managed to get into positions of leadership and relevance must fight for the others. We must fight for the others in the sense that we must become good role models to the other women. I do not want to mention names, but in times past in the political sphere, we've had women who got into office and became the most corrupt women on board. That is not what we need right now. We need good role models. We need Grace Titi Laoyeto only. We need Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's, people who can stand in the place of integrity and say, my hands are clean. So this is what we need. So both men and women need to do their own part. Men need to support structures that mentor women in leadership. You know, the average woman in politics is perceived to be a sexual toy. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. People assume that, oh, she slept with all the men to get there. And that shouldn't be. You know, a woman should get into office based on her intellect, her abilities, her capabilities.
You talk about this support. Yes, perhaps the men, or don't let me say perhaps, say we men, we are willing to give the support. But sometimes Yorubas will say,
Ashipa.
No, I mean the support sometimes you don't deserve that support. The behavior.
Okay, give me examples.
No, I don't want to give examples on air now,
okay,
but you say you know it as a lady that some of your ilk, some of them do misbehave when they get to power. You didn't name names, but you mentioned the issue.
You said this is the problem, sir. You see, when men misbehave, they are pardoned, they are excused. We give excuses, we make excuses. But a woman, if a woman does a quarter of what that man has done, she is crucified, dead and buried. So these are issues, you know. So women have had to fight to get into relevance.
Yeah.
So don't blame them if they're a little bit aggressive. And of course, there's no man. The Yorubas have a terminology called Beudani. No man wants to become a Beudani. They want to protect their traditional roles. You know, when the woman says, treat me fairly, treat me equitably, that is all they're asking for.
Since the 1995 Beijing Declaration of Affirmative Action, so much progress has not been made. Seriously speaking.
Yes.
Affirmative action, etc., etc. And when I threw the question earlier, you said both. Isn't it the fact that you must lead in that agitation for the equity you seek?
Yes, and that's what we're doing. That's why we have the International Women's Day. That's why we have International Day of the Girl Child.
You have not shown so much courage in that determination.
We haven't
shown so much courage.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, you are free to.
I beg to differ. We have shown a lot of courage. There is the matter is sub judice. I don't know if I can mention it on air now, but there is Natasha Apoti Uduagan.
Well, I don't mind you started because I was going to ask you that question. Okay, let's go.
Let's go.
You have jumped the gun, right?
No, I hold my views may be slightly different from the average feminist view.
Okay, let's hear.
And I'm going to share it. Two things. The first thing is the fact that this woman alleged that she was being sexually harassed.
Yes.
That needs to be investigated. It needs to be checked. We need to make sure that that isn't really happening. Good. She must bring evidence.
Yeah.
But the second one is that she flouted Senate rules. And for that, it's not a function of gender.
Thank you.
It's a function of you have flouted the rules, and just like other males who flouted the rules and were suspended, you need to be checked. However, she was given 6 months. I'm not sure. I would like to check the data, but I'm sure that is one of the longest suspensions.
It depends on the offense.
And
now, Ndumi was suspended for 6 months.
Okay.
This man from Bauchi State, Ringim, was suspended for 6 months. I do know that before the 6 months ended, they had pardoned him. So I think that, yes, but I know it as a matter of fact that he was suspended for 6 months.
Okay, so she's not the first.
As powerful as Ndumi was, the former Senate leader, he was suspended. So I agree with you to that extent that, yes, if the rules are flouted,
yes, you should bear the consequences. Yes. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. You know, it would rubbish the idea of equality, you know.
But the other side, which is heavier, is yet to be proved.
Well, we will leave the courts to do their work.
No, not only the court. Yeah, with the court instantly to say that, to prove beyond reasonable doubt. So how many women are able to prove beyond reasonable doubt in circumstances like this?
How many women are given the opportunity to speak? And how many women are believed? You know, there's this popular comedian, I've forgotten his name now, it escapes my memory. And he made this joke about a woman going to the police station to report rape. And then the officers began to say, did you go there by yourself? She said yes. Did you enter the bedroom? She said yes. Madam, did you take off your clothes, etc.? She said, you know, and before she knew it, that rape was trivialized. This is what happens to women when they want to raise their voices. They are shut down. And that is the real challenge. That is the real challenge.
Would you therefore conclude that what has slowed down the progress is essentially men?
That is a tough question. Not 100%. Okay? But I would say 70%.
Okay, now be bold to tell me, as a woman, have women received enough support? You say no. But at least some support. Can you itemize one or two areas where you think, oh, well, the men have been supporting us one way or the other?
I will have to think very, very, very deeply. Because I would like to start from affirmative action, 35%.
Yeah.
Right now, we have 4 women in the Senate.
Yes, I'm happy.
In a house of 109 people. We have 4.
Deteriorating.
And if there's a strong political will, we will insist that space be made for women. Yeah.
Power is never given.
Yes, I agree with you. You take it. But you see, how many platforms have been given to women to take what they need? Sometimes
they come on the ballot.
Yes.
This Senator Akpoti woman, she was on the ballot. She
in 2023, only 9.8 of the candidates were women. 9.8 of the candidates were women.
Just about
and only 5% of them succeeded. Only 5% of them succeeded.
Who is to blame in that respect?
Well, I believe there are a lot of factors. If we encourage women, you see, the reason why many women run away from politics and platforms like that is because of the sexualization. They tell you to get there, you are going to sleep. And many men, in many cases, many instances, men have gone out to say, oh, you want to go? You have to do my bidding. You have to take care of me. Like
that is stretching again. But taking care of a man doesn't mean sex. Does it always mean sex?
It usually does in political climes. I need to sleep with this, that, and that to be able to get my way into office. That is the reality. And how many husbands will allow their wives to go to such a place and become a leader when he's not sure if she has slept with X, Y, and Z to get there, to get privileges, to make her voice known and her voice heard? These are issues.
Yes, they are issues, but as Senator Florence Itagiwa was saying, you see, there is a measure of confidence that must come into a woman who has gotten to the top there. You must show charisma. You must show confidence.
I agree.
And these things, it is not as if I am agreeing that men tend to harass them. But if a man harasses you as a senator, you should be able to say yes, unless you are very interested. But if you keep on dribbling as younger women will do, the man thinks you are only playing the feminine. With time, he will get there. Your yes must be yes, your no must be no.
I agree. And how many women who have said no emphatically and have been assertive have been able to get to the positions of power? We need to check.
Yeah, we need to check. But I will always want women, the moment you cross the barrier 35, 40, you do like the former, who also incidentally accused Akpabio and said he slapped Akpabio.
Yes.
A woman must be able to, particularly when you are married, you must be able to take an action.
Well, that is what Natasha is trying to do.
Yeah, no, what? Slap the man. And let us, because you are only two.
Assault.
Yeah, you are only two there. Nobody. Let him also come forward and tell the world that you slapped him, and let us see how men will react.
Well, you do have a point.
Yes. But if you just leave him to go, you slap him and perhaps give him a dent on his face, and then he gets home. How did it happen? He will tell the wife a lie. But how many of us men will say, "Oh, we cook for our wife," not to talk of those things. You see, we see it. We will be coming to that. The cultural imperatives, how it has. But before we get there, because we will soon break, I want this last question.
Okay.
Women, and you are an advocate of women's rights.
Yes.
Is it gender parity or equality you seek, or fairness and equity?
Fairness and equity. Personally, for me, I'm a Christian, and I believe in certain traditional roles. You see, when traditional roles are your choice, you're fine. But when they are forced on you and you are demanded to follow things that constrain you and stop you from being the best version of yourself, that is not fair. So we're for fairness, we're for equity. When I do the same work as a man, and the man is paid higher than I'm paid, that is unfair.
That was time before now, long time ago.
In some cases, it's still happening. Okay? When people say, oh, the work that the woman will do, she doesn't have as much strength. Imagine, those are stereotypes that we need to challenge. So it's fairness and equity that we seek.
But it looks like you don't stand for it very firmly.
We do, as much as we can. I shared a particular, I don't know if we have that much time. I shared a particular instance where a professor did a research. She split her class into two, and she said, guys, I want you to study this case of a woman entrepreneur and a male entrepreneur. What she didn't tell them was that they were studying the same person.
Yeah.
But she gave one a male name, and she gave the other a female name. And you know what? At the end of the day, the female was described as pushy, aggressive, and not nice. But the man was, he's very, very, his goal, he's focused.
But he didn't tell them.
She didn't tell them
the gender.
This is the same person you are analyzing.
I'm saying, he didn't tell them what their genders are.
No. No, she did.
Okay.
She told this set, this is Mr. So-and-so, and this set, Miss So-and-so.
Okay.
And the same person was judged based on gender. That is unfair and shouldn't be. So when you try to raise your voice and say, this is the way, don't treat me like this because I'm a woman, you are seen as pushy, aggressive, and again, society begins to give you the knock.
Your husband is a Reverend Minister of God.
Absolutely.
You are a Christian.
Yes.
What does your concept of Christianity tell us in terms of equity?
Absolutely. The husband is the head of my home. I submit to that 100%.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. Okay. And because I submit to it 100%, it wasn't forced on me. Okay. But when you say, I cannot drive a car without my husband being there, I cannot travel out of the country without my husband being there, I cannot get an international passport without my husband's consent, that is where the problem lies. But when I say, I recognize these institutions because I'm a Christian, yes, my husband is the head of the home, I will let him be the CEO, and I will be the neck.
Well, the program is in two parts. We are halfway through. We will break up to make up at the underside of it all. Let me, at this point, tell the viewer at home that we are in a very, very beautiful discussion concerning the International Women's Year that was celebrated 2 days ago. And in the studio with me has been a woman's advocate and proprietress of a school, topmost educationist we have around, Mrs. Onyekasola Omegodun. We will be back to look at the second part and take on certain other challenges that women face. Please stay on and we will be back.
Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was an anti-apartheid activist who gave his all for the elimination of what has been described as the world's most vicious rule of the unjust and man's inhumanity against man. He was born July 18, 1918 in Mvezo, South Africa. Educated and trained as a successful legal practitioner, he took up the gauntlet of a human activist against segregation by the minority white supremacists in South Africa. At the climax of his trial for treason, orchestrated by the minority South African government, the great crusader for democratic equality was prepared to pay the supreme sacrifice to establish majority rule in his native land. He told white jurists that if achieving freedom for his people was worth his life, he was prepared to die. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in Robben Island, described as the most notorious prison in the world. It was from this same prison that he came out as a free man to assume office as South Africa's first black president in 1994. Western Spring Television identifies Nelson Mandela as a watershed character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back to the show Pertinent Questions on Western Spring Television. In the studio is a women's rights advocate and educationist and school proprietress, Mrs. Omegodun. Before we went on break, you did admit that what women seek is equity and fairness. You are not looking for equality and parity, gender parity. The world takes it that you women, you want a voice.
Yes.
A voice in the scheme of things globally.
Mm-hmm.
But if I might ask this very innocuous question, are women not their own problem?
How?
How? I'll tell you why. Many of you don't support yourself. Many of you have what Yorubas call Ilara.
Ilara.
It cuts across not only
absolutely. I was going to say that. No. It even cuts across genders as well. The males too have their problems. They have problems with conflict and competition.
But it is not like an average man.
We need the data. We need the data.
But I am saying, is that not the problem? Are women not their own problem? Before the data comes, tell us.
Okay, I think this is an overgeneralized belief. It's an assumption about women. There's a stereotype called the Queen Bee syndrome, where the women in authority are seen to be, very, very harsh on their women counterparts. They do not support other women. It's a stereotype. It happens with men too. Yes. It's one of the weapons against women is the Queen Bee syndrome, that, women always pull down women. That's not true. There are women that support women and women that see to it that other women rise. Well, we need the data, like I said. We need the data so that we can bring down those stereotypes.
Yes, women are always underrepresented.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to governance. We won't generalize it by governance, because today in Nigeria, women hold topmost positions, especially in the banking.
In the banking sector.
In the banking sector. And so it has started, and it is dovetailing. And but in representation, you don't have.
In political representation.
Why? Let me now throw the ball into your court. I've been seeking it, but you have always been parrying it in a way, pushing it into the men's court. Why is this so?
Why is it so? But the political terrain is a very hard nut to crack. And they make it especially so for women. Why? Number one, for you to be a political office holder in Nigeria today, you must be loaded. You must have the financial metal and muscle.
Some of you are very rich today.
Some.
Yes.
We need the data. Some of us, compared to men, how many women have the financial muscle?
Well, I agree with you to some extent.
To some extent. To a large extent, many women do not have the financial muscle. And therefore, what comes to play? Rub my back, I rub your back. We're back to square one. These are the issues. That's why we're underrepresented. That's why we're struggling to get to office. But by the time women of substance understand that politics is about serving the people, and I will use my wealth to get there or to help other women get there, we will make more progress.
So to some extent, the problem is not in your stars, but in yourself. You see,
the problem is in society. And societal perceptions.
But the women folk have not helped it either. You have not helped it because a few rich amongst you should be able to, as you just mentioned, support very good candidates.
That would happen with time.
Yeah, but it should have started happening after 26 years of political...
And thank God for this kind of programs where we would enlighten people and educate them. Okay. And I want to say that if it hasn't happened in America, we've had 2 major candidates, female candidates.
Yes.
And they have struggled to get into office, and they haven't.
Why did they not?
Many, many, many reasons.
Yeah, but
because the society, I believe the American society is not ready for a female president.
Yes.
Which is sad.
Well,
because I would have picked Kamala Harris 1 million times over Trump.
Okay. Maybe they are working themselves to a point in time. By the time Donald Trump finishes his second term, they will yearn for a woman president.
I hope so.
Because 8 years ago, how many years ago? Yes, 8 years ago, amongst all the candidates, Hillary Clinton was the best.
Oh yes, she stood out.
But
America said no.
Male Americans.
Well, male Americans said no.
Because it's not only the female. The female, some of them had grudges against her. But if the men had not supported them in that, she would have easily won. Of course, she won by the popular votes, by 3 million.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we come back to our system. There's no doubting the fact that women are always underrepresented, as we have said.
Yes.
But in spite of all these things, in the use of some inspirational slogans and phrases like women's grace, strength, and wisdom make the world. In spite of empower a woman, empower the world. Are these not enough slogans you can latch on and to say, yes, the men have started soft pedaling and we can get there?
We need more than slogans.
Yes, I said, yes, a little bit, at least get to every home. The man will accept the role of the wife, unless he's a very responsible man. He would. But you have to go the extra mile from there, a step forward. Rome was not built in a day,
yes,
but it was eventually built. That is why some of us keep on thinking it is the women who are not making things happen. The accelerated, that the theme is more in your court. Accelerated, is it progress or?
I disagree.
Yes, I don't want us to be agreeing every time.
We know that the vehicles for change are dominated by the males currently.
That's a strong point. You have known it.
So they should use that office to support more women representation. The women can't barge in. You have to make room for them to come in. Implement affirmative action.
Yeah, I expect you to say that. But the average man, for you to tell me we must make room for it. An average man is
let me explain.
Selfish.
Yes, exactly.
Even including the women.
So we're appealing to you to stop being selfish and be inclusive.
So you have to, you see, in our country, for instance, if affirmative action is 35%, the first few years of our current political dispensation was when we saw women saying affirmative action. All of you, or most of you, have gone to sleep since then, and everything has been cascading downstairs. Today you have only 4.
Because it is very hard. It is financially tough. It is economically tough. It is in every way tough to try to get
for representation. But it should not be so in a pontiff. That is why in a pontiff positions. We still, out of 48 ministers, I don't think we have up to 10.
And so that is why. What is the president doing about such?
What are you women also doing?
We are clamoring now. Who is listening to us?
You have to. If the representation at the electoral level is not available, cash in on. She has a wife who is a woman. Cash in on that. Begin to drum it into everybody who will come to office. That we need 15, we need 17, we need ministers.
Okay, you are giving me an idea, but this is my idea. You see, each political party has what we call women leaders.
Yeah.
I want to throw the ball into the courts of the women leaders and say, we women, because majority of those who vote are women.
Yes.
Statistics.
Yes.
Okay. So women should say, look, we're going to use that muscle to say, if you do not include us, if not 35%, 20%, we're not going to come out to vote.
They will convince you to vote, and when they vote, when you finish, whatever you call it, when you finish voting, they recall into their shelf and give you 4% senators, 10.
No, we would have to sit down and do a contractual agreement.
That is why I said you have not sufficiently done your homework.
And that is why I'm throwing the ball into the courts of the women leaders in our parties. Do more. You are listening to this program today. Do more.
There are systemic barriers, biases, and prejudices affecting
glass
women.
ceilings.
Yes. It is this glass ceiling that I think your advocacy and things like that should break.
Yes, and that's what, there's a lot of information out there. But you know, I don't want to say this, but let me just say, men can be very hard of hearing.
Yes, you are right. You are right. We are hard of hearing because you are very, we are, how do I put it? We rationalize things.
You have insufficient political commitment to the implementation of policies that will help women. Period.
You see, okay, how will these barriers, if you don't help yourself to remove these barriers so that the glass ceiling...
help yourself, so are we going to...
Heaven helps themselves.
Are we going to press and go there and say, hey, we no go agree, we no go agree?
Sometimes. If it comes to that.
We are going to do that. Then you will say these women have come again, always aggressive and manipulative and controlling.
Go back to the literature, our husband has gone mad again. Yes, let's think along that line, that your husband, who are men, have gone mad again. And so you need to treat that new madness.
Oh, well.
You see, the ball is more in your court.
Yes, and that's why we are asking that our voices be heard. Yes.
Voices to be heard. But don't you think seriously that women must be more reasonable?
How, sir? How do you
While I think men must show understanding.
Okay. Reasonable in what sense? Are we asking for too much?
Not too much, but that it takes
we should take the little bit.
No. We take the little bit and
we
then
shouldn't look for 35% affirmative action. We should be happy with 10%.
No, I'm not saying that. Okay. I would never say that.
Okay.
But I want to ginger you women. Tell the world that in Nigeria the 10 female distance it doesn't go down with you. And then make a noise. But the moment the 10 is giving you, everybody goes to court. Yes, it will improve the next time. When it is improving, when it's supposed to be improving, when the president was reshuffling his cabinet, who did he first attack? The women.
The women. Okay.
But, the man is chauvinistic. Is a character, all men, white, green, black. We are chauvinistic. If you don't help us to check that chauvinism.
And then that is why I am saying that we need comprehensive legislation. Ensure that laws, written contracts.
Good. Thank you, my sister.
Yes.
Why can't your advocacy groups, there is always a private member legislation in the National Assembly.
Okay.
But don't be afraid and shy away for it's men, they will not use it. Go and use some of your women and appoint them lawyers who will really sit down and marshal their points for them.
You do have a point.
You need that, but you give it to a man, his fellow friends will tell him, so she didn't.
They would need.
Yes. But
okay.
Ensure that some of these women, like the Senator Akpoti of a lady, it looks like she's boisterous a little. Encourage somebody like that when she returns. Let her, they will say, oh, she has come back again. Yes, but he will be making a point. May not be fully her ideas, but the lawyers and the think tank you bring out to support her views will be doing the business. And then you also go back and do some lobbying. All legislators do lobbying. It happens in the United States.
I do agree that the women need to go back and go back to the drawing table. I agree. Yeah. Certainly. We need to re-strategize, certainly. But to say that we should just claw into power, it's not going to happen.
Yes. No, I said it from the beginning and you admitted. Nobody gives you power. You have to struggle for it. If you didn't struggle for this, that has become International Women's Day, way back in the early 1990s. Early 1900s.
1900s.
You won't be where you are today.
We will keep fighting. But I'm saying we need to not box the air.
Yeah.
We need to fight strategically.
Yes.
And men need to give a plan, put us into their plans, and make room for us to.
You create that avenue for man to put you in your plan. Man is not ready to put...
Yes, that's why we would make our voice...
He can put his wife in his plan, but he won't put the Nigerian woman in his plan.
I see what you mean.
Okay, very last question. It has nothing to do with what we are discussing.
Oh,
you are an educationist. You are a woman's advocate. You are a mother. Did you become a school proprietor? Did you become that because of what your parents were?
Not at all.
How did it?
And my parents were both teachers.
Teachers. They were. She is just saying teachers, so they were not ordinary teachers. One was the man was a professor. Yes. The lady, the mother was
a permanent secretary. She retired as permanent secretary
from
in Oyo
principal
State,
level.
Principal
so
level.
That is it. So the not ordinary teacher.
Yes.
Now tell me, what did you read, and did you have to
Why
go
did
into?
I go into education? You know, my mom, I would call her my prophet. My prophet told me when I was about 16, 17, she said, when you come, go and read education. And I said, me? Never. But hello, this was a prophecy. It came to pass. I developed eyes to see that this was a place where I needed to function. By the time I was in my final year in the university, I knew I needed to affect lives.
What did you read?
I read urban and regional planning, geographic information systems.
So how did you swim?
Because I had this desire that I couldn't push aside. And I decided,
it came from your prophet.
It came from my prophet. No, I later saw it to come from my prophet. Then my husband said, okay, now we have our first son. What are we going to do about school? And you know, out of my spirit, the name Olive Branches just came out. And I said, okay, we're starting a school called Olive Branches. And that was it. And before I knew it, things began to fall in place. I began to, till today, I don't think I can do anything else. You know, I love education. I love the idea of helping people learn. This is what I do. And my mom laughs at me. I told you, you know, I would have been maybe a PhD holder by now if I'd listened to her. Well, I didn't listen. So I had to go back, put my degrees aside, and go for a postgraduate diploma in education. And I hope to pursue further education in the field by the grace of God.
Well, that's about all we will take. How is Mama doing?
She's fine.
My big sister has not had the opportunity of going.
She's growing old gracefully.
Yes, in the 80s. She's in her 80s now.
Yes.
We thank God for her life.
Thank you, sir.
Say me well to her.
I will. I certainly will.
To the viewer at home, I started this program by referring to this wonderful lady before you. She's my sister and wife. You've seen it all. She is she's the daughter of parents I have known my growing up years in Ibadan and had related with them. May Papa's soul continue to rest in peace.
Amen.
Unfortunately, she fell into my hands as the wife of my younger brother. So when I call her my aburo and my wife, this is what I mean. I'm taking the home into the studio. I hope you permit me. That's been what we have had to bring you today on the International Women's Day that was celebrated 2 days ago. Your parting short statement.
Women, don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep striving. The sky is the limit.
The glass ceiling.
The glass ceiling will be shattered entirely.
Not just broken.
Shattered.
We wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
But please, before you shatter it, put in more aggression.
We will. We definitely will.
That has been our package. I like to appreciate your time and you set out to watch this program. I am Adeto Isheshitu Alamo, your host. Hopefully next week, we will be able to bring you another personality with a very compelling presence like Mrs. Onyekasola Umegod. Thank you very much for watching. See you another time.